Dr. Jae-young was not just any man in Seoul. He was the youngest billionaire in the country, a renowned cardiothoracic surgeon who had saved countless lives. His brilliance earned him fame, and his fortune came from a chain of luxury hospitals he built across Asia. Women from every corner of society, actresses, heiresses, models, sought his attention. Yet Jae-young refused them all. His heart was locked away, untouchable, immune to beauty. One humid evening, returning from a medical conference abroad, Jae-young passed through Incheon Airport. His tailored suit, sharp jawline, and cold eyes made him stand out among the crowd. As he walked, people whispered. Phones secretly lifted to capture a photo of the elusive billionaire doctor. He ignored them, his mind busy with hospital schedules. But then, a young woman collapsed right in front of him. She was not glamorous. Her clothes were plain, her suitcase old and scratched. Her skin glistened with sweat, her breathing shallow. She was an ordinary black girl, unnoticed by the world. But something in the way her body crumpled tugged sharply at his instincts. Clear the way. Jae-young's voice was commanding. He knelt, checking her pulse, loosening her scarf. The crowd gasped, realizing who was helping. Airport security tried to approach, but he waved them back. Dehydration, low blood sugar, he muttered, his practiced eyes assessing. He reached into his own bag, pulling out a bottle of water and glucose tablets. Carefully, he held her head, feeding her sips until her eyelids fluttered open. She looked up, confused, dazed, and her dark eyes locked with his. Are you an angel?" she whispered weakly. For the first time in years, Jae-young chuckled, a soft warmth breaking through his usual coldness. "No, just a doctor." Her name was Amara, a graduate student who had come from Africa with little money, chasing a scholarship dream. She had been too nervous to eat all day, worried about immigration checks and her connecting flight. He could have left once she recovered. That's what everyone expected of him, the untouchable doctor with no time for strangers. But he didn't. "Come with me," he said firmly. "You need proper food before you travel again." She protested, embarrassed, but he guided her to the VIP lounge where shocked staff obeyed his every word. He ordered warm soup, fruit, and tea, sitting across from her as she slowly regained strength. Amara felt out of place, sitting there in her simple clothes, surrounded by luxury, under the gaze of a man every woman dreamed of. "You don't have to do this for me," she murmured. "Maybe I want to," he replied softly. His eyes didn't wander like others. He wasn't studying her features or her skin. He looked at her as if she mattered, simply for existing. Over the next weeks, Jae-young found excuses to check on her. He offered to drive her to campus, to introduce her to people who could ease her transition in Seoul. What began as doctorly concern soon became something deeper. He found himself waiting for her texts. He laughed at her honesty, her clumsy Korean, her stories about her family back home. Unlike the polished women who flaunted beauty and wealth, Amara was real, ordinary, yet extraordinary in her sincerity. One evening, as they walked by the Han River, she stopped, staring at the glowing skyline. "You're the man everyone wants, Jae-young. No one special. Why me?" He turned to her, his gaze steady. "Because in a world full of faces, you're the first one who made me feel human again. Beauty never reached me, but you reached my heart." Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, the billionaire doctor, who once rejected every beauty, pulled the ordinary girl into his arms, sealing their story with a kiss that silenced the city around them. The days after that kiss by the Han River were filled with warmth and discovery. Jae-young, once called the frozen doctor by tabloids, now found himself smiling at his phone in the hospital corridors, waiting for Amara's clumsy text messages. She would write things like, "I think I overcooked my rice. Again. Want to taste disaster?" And he would laugh until his surgical assistants stared in disbelief. But love was never easy, especially when one half of the couple was the nation's most desired billionaire. It didn't take long before paparazzi caught them together. Headlines exploded across South Korea. "Billionaire doctor dates foreign girl? Who is she?" Ordinary student captures Jae-young's heart. Social media buzzed with cruel comments. Some mocked her skin color, others her simple background. Anonymous voices sneered, "He deserves someone elegant, not her." Amara read the articles in silence, her chest tightening. She avoided Jae-young's calls for 2 days, too ashamed to face him. When he finally found her sitting alone on campus steps, she whispered, "I don't want to ruin your reputation. You should choose someone more fitting." But Jae-young knelt in front of her, ignoring the stares of students passing by. "I'm a doctor, Amara. My life has been about saving hearts. Why should I let the world stop me from protecting my own?" His voice was steady, and his eyes burned with certainty. She broke down, and he pulled her into his embrace, shielding her from the cameras lurking at a distance. Of course, not everyone was happy. One of the women he had refused, Minaseo, a glamorous daughter of a politician, couldn't stand the humiliation. She confronted Amara at a charity gala Jae-young had invited her to. "You don't belong here," Minaseo hissed, her smile never leaving her face for the cameras. "He's a man of status, wealth, and power. You're just ordinary. Do you think love is enough to survive in this world?" Amara's hands trembled as she excused herself, hiding in the restroom. When she returned, Jae-young noticed her pale face. He took her hand under the table, squeezing gently. Later that night, he whispered, "The world may see you as ordinary, but to me, you are the rarest miracle." Despite his reassurances, Amara struggled with more than gossip. The language barrier, the unfamiliar food, the loneliness of being far from home, all pressed heavily on her. One evening, when she burned her dinner again, she sat on the kitchen floor crying. That was when Jae-young arrived, still in scrubs, exhausted from surgery. He didn't speak. He simply sat beside her, took her hand, and started eating the overcooked rice with a smile. "Perfect," he said, making her laugh through her tears. He began learning words in her language, surprising her by saying, "Nina Kapenda, I love you," in Swahili. One morning, she, in turn, worked harder on her Korean, determined to stand beside him with pride. Months passed. The storm slowly faded as people began to see them together, stronger than before. Patients spoke of Jae-young's softer side, of how he smiled now, how he seemed more human. Even the tabloids lost interest when they realized nothing could shake them apart. One winter night, as snow fell quietly over Seoul, Jae-young led Amara to the rooftop of his hospital. He wrapped a scarf around her neck, his breath visible in the cold air. "You asked me once why you," he said, his voice deep with emotion. "The answer is simple. Because when you fell in that airport, my heart fell with you. And it's been yours ever since." He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was not the most expensive diamond, but a simple, elegant ring. "Amara, will you marry me?" Her tears sparkled brighter than the snowflakes. She whispered, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." And under the Seoul night sky, the billionaire doctor and the ordinary girl sealed their love with a promise that no beauty, no power, and no prejudice could ever undo. When news of their engagement broke, the entire nation buzzed again. Some called it a fairy tale, others called it a scandal. Still, on a crisp spring morning, under a canopy of cherry blossoms, Jae-young and Amara stood hand in hand. His parents, initially resistant, were stunned by the gentleness he showed her. They realized no heiress had ever made their son this alive. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, Jae-young didn't care about the flashes of cameras or whispers in the crowd. He only saw Amara's trembling smile as he kissed her forever. Adjusting to married life wasn't easy for Amara. Suddenly, she was the billionaire doctor's wife. She had staff bowing to her, stylists offering clothes, reporters waiting outside their gate. But Amara never forgot where she came from. Instead of indulging in luxuries, she spent her days volunteering at a children's hospital. She played with kids who had no one, telling them stories in broken Korean that made them giggle. Nurses adored her, saying, "She has a healing heart, just like him." At night, Jae-young would return from surgery to find her curled up on the couch, waiting. He'd drop his medical case, remove his glasses, and sink beside her. Sometimes they didn't even talk, just held each other, the silence filled with unspoken love. But not everyone accepted her. At hospital banquets, whispers followed Amara. She still doesn't fit, some muttered. Min Seo, the politician's daughter, tried once more to humiliate her, hinting at divorce statistics and cultural incompatibility. This time, Amara didn't run. She lifted her chin, smiled, and answered softly, "Maybe I'm not perfect in your eyes, but love is not about fitting, it's about choosing. And he chose me as I chose him. That is enough." Later that night, when she told Jae-young about it, he kissed her hand and said, "You are stronger than any surgery I've ever performed." One rainy evening, Jae-young collapsed in the hospital after performing a 16-hour surgery. Stress and exhaustion had finally caught up. The man who always saved others suddenly became the patient. Amara rushed to his side, refusing to leave his hospital bed. She fed him soup with her own hands, massaged his tired shoulders, whispered prayers in her native tongue while stroking his hair. When he finally woke fully, his first words were, "You stayed." She smiled through tears. Always. Years later, Amara became more than the billionaire's wife. She co-founded a foundation with Jae-young, supporting underprivileged students who dreamed of becoming doctors. She traveled across Africa and Korea, speaking in both worlds, showing that love wasn't bound by race, status, or beauty. And at home, no matter how big the house, they still lived simply. He still tasted her disaster rice with a grin, and she still teased him about working too hard. One evening, as the sun dipped behind Seoul's skyline, Amara rested her head on Jae-young's shoulder. "Do you regret choosing me?" she asked playfully. He turned, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I regret not meeting you sooner." The world had once doubted them, but their love endured, proving that sometimes the strongest cure is not found in hospitals or wealth, but in the ordinary heart of a girl who dared to love. 2 years into their marriage, on a quiet morning, Amara placed a small envelope in Jae-young's hand. He opened it, curious, and froze. Inside was a sonogram picture. His usually calm surgeon's hands trembled as he looked at her. "Amara, are you?" She nodded, tears already glistening. "We're going to be parents." For the first time, the great Dr. Jae-young forgot how to speak. Then he laughed, lifting her off the ground in pure joy. 9 months later, their daughter was born. A tiny girl with warm brown skin and Jae-young's sharp eyes. They named her Hannah, meaning flower in Korean, and also one to mark her as their first miracle. Jae-young, once so distant from people, now melted every time he held Hannah. He learned to swaddle her, to hum lullabies off-key, to walk around the house at 3 a.m. bouncing her gently on his shoulder. Who would have thought, Amara teased one night, that the nation's most desired billionaire would be covered in baby spit? He grinned, eyes soft as he looked at Hannah. "I'd wear it like a crown." As Hannah grew, the challenge of blending two cultures began. Amara wanted her to know her African roots, while Jae-young wanted her to be proud of her Korean heritage. They compromised. Hannah spoke both languages, ate kimchi with yugali, and danced to K-pop and Afrobeat alike. But outside their home, not everyone was kind. At school, some children whispered about Hannah's skin being different. One day, she came home crying, asking, "Why don't I look like the other kids?" Amara's heart broke, but Jae-young knelt beside his daughter and said, "Because you are a rainbow, Hannah, and rainbows are rare. Never hide your colors." Years later, they welcomed a son, Daniel, whose mischievous smile was pure Amara, but whose determination was all Jae-young. Together, Hannah and Daniel filled the mansion with laughter and chaos. Though Jae-young still worked long hours, he never missed their milestones. He attended school plays in his white coat, rushed from surgeries to soccer games, and held family dinners sacred no matter how busy life became. One evening, as Amara watched Jae-young teaching Hannah how to ride a bike, she whispered to herself, "He once saved my life at an airport. But the truth is, he's been saving my heart every day since." Later that night, curled in bed beside her, Jae-young murmured, You gave me more than love, Amara. You gave me a family, a reason to breathe beyond the operating room. They fell asleep hand in hand, their children's soft snores filling the halls. A reminder that even the coldest, most untouchable man could be transformed by love, and that sometimes, an ordinary girl can write the most extraordinary story. By the time Hannah turned 14, she had grown into a thoughtful, curious girl. She inherited her father's sharp intellect but also her mother's warmth. She loved painting. Her canvases filled with colorful portraits of people she met at the children's hospital where Amara volunteered. But high school was not always kind. One day, she came home upset after classmates mocked her accent when she recited a Korean poem. Jae-young found her in her room, staring at her unfinished painting. Sitting beside her, he asked softly, "Do you know what the most important thing in surgery is?" Hannah sniffled. "What?" "Not the tools, not the speed. It's the courage to keep your hands steady, even when everyone else is doubting you." He touched her hand gently. "Your colors, your voice, your way of seeing the world, that's your steady hand. Never let anyone shake it." That night, Hannah finished her painting, a portrait of her parents standing hand in hand. Daniel, on the other hand, was pure energy. At 12, he wanted to be a footballer one day, a doctor the next, and an astronaut the day after. His teachers often called him too restless, but Amara saw the sparkle of ambition in his eyes. One afternoon, he got into a fight at school when someone insulted his sister. Jae-young was summoned. The teacher expected the father to be furious. Instead, Jae-young crouched to his son's level. "Fighting is easy," he said calmly, "but protecting with wisdom is harder. If you want to defend your sister, Daniel, do it not with fists, but with a voice so strong, no one can ignore it." From then on, Daniel joined the debate club. He discovered he could channel his fire into words that silenced even the toughest opponents. Raising biracial children in Korea came with invisible battles. Amara sometimes worried that the world's prejudice would harden her children's hearts. Jae-young sometimes feared his wealth would make them lose humility. But together, they made sure Hannah and Daniel grew with balance. Saturdays were for family meals. Sometimes Korean, sometimes African, always filled with laughter. Sundays were for volunteering, showing the kids that privilege meant responsibility. One summer evening, Hannah shyly confessed to Amara that she liked a boy in her class. "But he said his parents wouldn't approve, because I don't look like them." Amara's chest tightened, but before she could answer, Jae-young entered, overhearing just enough. He sat between them and said gently, "Hannah, love is not about who fits expectations. It's about who has the courage to choose. Just like I chose your mother, even when the world said no. And that choice became the best decision of my life." Hannah smiled through tears. For the first time, she began to understand her parents' love story in full. By the time Hannah was preparing for university, she had chosen to study art therapy, blending her passion for painting with her desire to heal children emotionally. Daniel, meanwhile, declared he wanted to follow his father into medicine, though with his own flair. At Hannah's graduation exhibition, one of her largest paintings depicted an airport scene, a young woman collapsing and a man kneeling to help her. Above it, she wrote, "The moment love found us." Jae-young stood with Amara, hand in hand, staring at the painting that captured their beginning. His eyes softened as he whispered, "Our children are writing the next chapters, Amara, and I couldn't be prouder." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "We gave them love. The rest they will carry on." And as their children stepped confidently into the world, half Korean, half African, but wholly themselves, Jae-young and Amara knew that their ordinary miracle had bloomed into a legacy of extraordinary love. Years passed, and Hannah and Daniel grew into strong, compassionate adults, carrying both their Korean and African roots with pride. Hannah became an art therapist, healing children through colors and creativity, while Daniel followed his father's path in medicine, but with a fire for justice and advocacy. Amara and Jae-young, now older but still deeply in love, often sat together watching their children step into the world. From the moment she collapsed at the airport to the family they had built, their journey proved that love was never about beauty, wealth, or status. It was about courage, choice, and hearts willing to fight together. And so, the billionaire doctor who once refused all beauties found his forever in an ordinary girl, and together they created an extraordinary legacy of love. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment. Also like, share, and subscribe to my channel and click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is uploaded.